People die how they lived.
Oof, that's hard. What are you noticing that happens perhaps in the negative by people living in denial and not acknowledging that death is right in front of them?
They suffer. Physical suffering, emotional suffering, spiritual suffering.
The family or the patient?
Both. When you prolong life at all costs, you will create suffering. Death is inevitable. Sorry.
Who are you saying sorry to?
The crowd. Get a good shot of this book. Knowledge decreases fear. For sure. Hence the book. Nothing to fear.
Okay, so Julie, you have a book out that's right there.
Can we see it?
You want to grab it?
I'm looking at the camera. Jeff,
Make sure you get a good shot of this.
get a good shot of this book.
Okay. All right, well.
This is it, folks, that I've been blood, sweat, and tears over this baby.
Before you leave, you should throw some sweat and blood on there for me instead of signing it. Is that a bad idea? But no, but seriously, congratulations. Congratulations, because I remember, honestly, I think so this is the fourth time that, for everyone that definitely is going to know who Julie is, the fourth time you've been on the show. We did 2 by yourself, now our third, and the one with Penny.
Yeah, so, that's right.
Yeah, so this is, you're getting a market share of Dead Talks right now, because you're definitely setting a record, but it's for good reason, because I remember you bringing up a book was coming, and it was in talks, it wasn't quite there yet, and then to now have you sitting here with a book, that's pretty amazing.
I know, almost 2 weeks out. It's out June 11th, and I'm not sure when this is going to actually air, sorry, now that I think about it.
Well, I think we're planning, it might be in the future, might be after, so around the same time. So when you're listening to this, the book is coming out.
Yeah, June 11th.
So it might be out right now. I don't know if we're talking the past tense or future tense right now.
Yeah, either way.
We'll figure that part out. But so 2 things, obviously we want people to buy her book, so go buy her book. But also it's tell us about the focus of your book, and that's going to, besides talking about the book and saying it 12 times, it's going to be a lot of the conversation, because I'm curious as to what you're trying to teach people with it.
Yeah. So the book is called Nothing to Fear. That's the main title. Subtitle is Demystifying Death to Live More Fully. So it is not just a storybook of my like life and journey in hospice. However, there is an element to that, just so it doesn't feel like a textbook. But it really is meant to be a resource for people who are either getting near the end of life, or taking care of someone who is, maybe chronic illness, or you're just fascinated about learning about death and dying, which I feel like you and I are. So it's an educational book that I put personal stories in, just so it doesn't feel like a textbook.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if it is someone that's going through the process, I wonder how difficult that would be to manage that. But is it a book that you have to read from beginning to end, or is there anything, since it's educational, is there anything you could read if you need certain parts of it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. No, it's not. I specifically was like, when I write a book, if I do, it can't be a book that you need to read from cover to cover. Because this could be a time in your life when you're stressed out, and the last thing you think you can do is sit down and focus and read a book. Mm-hmm. So no, it's meant to be, you can pick up, look at the chapters, see which one is the thing you're looking for, and then just read that chapter. Or even the best part of my book is the index. So like truly my most favorite part of the book is the index. There's a massive index in the back. You can look up specific words, specific things, and they'll tell you where it is in the book.
So I'm sure maybe there's going to be more, but in regards to that index and what's in the book, was there a specific reason why you focused on what's in the book? Because I'm sure the process of dying can be an encyclopedia. Right. So like, what are the main focus points of this, in this book, like of the dying process? Is there anything in particular?
I mean, kind of all of it. I talk about, so there's like a chapter specifically on hospice, right? So if you want to like understand like the ins and outs of hospice, there's a chapter specifically on what does it look like to die? What's the process of dying? Whole chapter on that. A whole chapter on deathbed phenomena, which I think a lot of people like.
That seems to be one,
yeah. A little bit of my story about like how I came to be a hospice nurse and why is it so important to me. There's a whole grief chapter. There's a whole death with dignity chapter. There's a chapter called advice for caregivers, advice for the dying. So it's kind of, to me, I mean, I think I'm a little partial. To me, I feel like this is a book that everyone would need.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Well,
like it's
literally.
Literally.
So you're kind of covering all the processes, whether it's depending on which phase you're on.
Yep.
So that's something that especially I've come across during my podcast is a lot of people that are so many people do go through the dying process with someone else, and they have to find firsthand through the experience. But it's just, how do we get people to not wait for that. But the cool thing about your book is like, if you are going through it, you can pick it up and figure it out. But it's like, I think it is important for people to just consider these processes before it happens.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen. And at least and for being there for someone else that's going through it and having this knowledge, because without certain knowledge, especially during the dying process, it's terrifying.
Yeah, totally. And also I think, just like many people with my videos, they say like, my loved one died 10 years ago, but watching your videos have helped me understand what was happening and makes me feel a little better. So I feel like even if you've already gone through this, I feel like it's a book to help you understand what you witnessed.
Yeah, so it tackles all the before, the current, and the after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's great. And you're like, what's the guy from Dr. Scrooge, the past, the present, the future? Am I making that up? Am I making that up?
I think that's just the ghost, the past. I have no idea.
I could have sworn there was a ghost, the past. Are we saying it? Is that the name?
No, yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like that's the name of the ghost.
Yeah, the past.
No, some people watching this are screaming at what the name is.
Yeah, I guess we'll just keep that in. So I want to give you a quick snippet. Excuse me. I know we just mentioned it. I didn't think it was going to come up this soon, but it makes sense. So for everyone listening, when my mom went to cardiac arrest, we had a moment where Mom, I'll get your permission you're cool with this, so I'll find out. I'll get your permission before I continue this story, but I'm going to continue it anyway, and then I'll get permission.
Yeah.
Just to clarify for everyone listening. So at that moment, my mom was in the ICU. She was confused and felt like as if she saw her parents, and we had to explain to her that her parents weren't alive anymore. And at that moment, I was figuring out what to do with my sisters and my mom's partner, and we were all a little bit flustered. I actually texted you. I texted Julie at the moment just to get some quick, which it'd be interesting to pull up. Maybe I'll pull it up another time. But I did text you, not ironically, but in regards to the book, what you thought about this, just a quick little this. I think you were on vacation. It's just like the worst time to text you. I had no idea, obviously. And you did get back to me, so I'm truly grateful for that. But it just kind of it brought the dust together just to hear it from someone who's seen that a million times. Maybe not an exact example, but of course, similar experiences. And then you didn't. I forget exactly what you said, but
I don't remember anything that I said. To be honest,
that's fine. We could pull that up, and I don't want to do it right now. Maybe at the end. But you just gave some words, and I think just regardless of what you said, it was just like, okay, I got to hear from someone and something in that moment that kind of, I think, brought it all together for me. And then I was able to go in there and have the conversation with my mom. And again, you didn't give me the do this, do that, but it brought some kind of comedy to it. So my thought with you being there, thank you, first of all, and to kind of give me a little bit of juice and my family even just to take the next steps, whatever that was. It was improv. I had to figure it out, but I felt better after hearing a text from you. And so if that's any allusion to what the book is, it's like a perfect real life example. Obviously your book wasn't there yet, but I got it from you in a real life scenario when my mom was in the ICU having this experience, thinking her parents are still alive. And I know that's only one chapter, but it's all encompassing of that process. She's not on hospice. It's not that kind of story, of course. But we thought she wasn't sure if she was going to make it 12 hours before this. So it was just a very confusing experience in general. And to relate that afterlife question to my experience, it was just very comforting for you to be there. Okay. And so it's if now you have a whole damn book on it. It's I'm just saying I'm co-signing it, no pun intended, in regards to that experience. So it was just a lot. And it's just wild to me that was my first experience or something like that. But you see that every day. Well, you see that often.
Yeah, often.
So, what does that do?
It makes you get on the internet and start telling people about death and dying and write a book about it. Yeah. That's what, really, I feel so grateful and lucky that I love what I do. I really, really mean it. It doesn't make me feel weird. Well, it kind of makes me feel weird, trying to quote unquote, sell a book or feel like I'm pushing a book. That part is uncomfortable, but it's not that uncomfortable because I really believe in it. And if it's not the book, it's my videos. Or if it's not my videos, it's something. It's I really believe in what I'm trying to teach. And I feel like I practice what I preach on a daily basis about trying to be great, contemplating my own mortality, which I try to do almost every day because it helps me live better. It helps me reframe what's important to me. It helps me be grateful for the sunshine and walking outside and feeling the breeze, little things like that. which like refocuses my whole life.
For exclusive access to bonus content, new episodes, and more, check out our Patreon account for only $5 a month. Link is in the description.
When you say contemplate, you're just literally just considering that you're going to die? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Right? Like imagining that I have 6 months left to live. So it can be in a meditation, which most people are like, oh my God. Yeah. But it doesn't do that. Like it might at first, actually. So it might at first. But if you can imagine that, right? Not even like all the sadness with that, but just imagine that it's a reality, which it could be. I could be dead in 6 months. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that change my life in this moment? And like, I think at first it's a little drastic. I'd quit my job. I'd see my family, blah, 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 right? But like, that's not the reality. You still have to like live, right? So what can you do? At least for me, this is what I think. What can I do in today that would help me appreciate what I have today? So like that I have a body that feels healthy and I can walk and talk and see my friends and talk to my family. And for some reason, appreciating the sunshine always comes to mind, like appreciating the breeze, hearing the birds. It sounds so silly, but like it changes everything.
No, it literally does. I mean, that's one of my favorite. Like I quite often contemplate that too. Like I forget, we were in the car yesterday with my buddy, and I don't know if it was like we were had some food, and we're like, well, let's just eat it later. We'll save it later. And I was like, we don't even know if we're gonna make it later. Let's just eat it now. So, but it is a balancing act of that being too over the top. Of, okay, I'm just gonna risk it all because I might die. Like, okay, relax, but don't like do something like that. But it does motivate you to at least appreciate these little moments. So I don't think it's corny at all, because when you start, that's like living in the present. When you focus on the sun and the sounds, like that is, when I go for a walk or something like that, I forget who kind of suggested it, but just focus on the sounds around you, even like your feet hitting the pavement, the sounds of the birds, like any little noises that go around. Because when I started doing that, it just brought me the most present I could possibly be. And as little as that sounds, it's like when we're walking doing this, we're constantly thinking about what's next. Like, we got to do this, I got to go back, I got to cook dinner, this, that, the other. But if you just listen to the sounds around you, it's like a totally different ballgame. Yeah. And I guess that comes with your experience. And
yeah, I feel like, it takes practice and time, but my patients, like my book is dedicated to my patients and their families, because my work and meeting people who are dying, no, they're dying, day in and day out, has really helped me just value what's important to me, right? So it would be different for everybody, but to me.
With all these experiences and seeing the family dynamics in your patients, what's the most misunderstood thing that comes up? Is it just the physical process, or is there something specific?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like ways we could go with that. We could talk about the emotional side or the spiritual side, but I like talking about the physical side because I feel like that's very rarely talked about. So like I think the most misunderstood. There's many misunderstood things, but one of the things that I think will help a lot is if people will be willing to understand physically what it's going to be like. And sometimes that's gray, so we can't always know exactly, which is hard for people because people like to live in the black and white and feel like they have control, including myself. But if you can learn even a little bit of like what the dying process may look like specific to your disease, which I do talk about in my book and in my videos, and the family members being educated on what it will look like and how it helps bring an awareness so you can deal with it.
How often do families brush it off, and how often do families, you notice, look into it and study it to understand what's coming?
I wish I knew. I'd say like almost half and half probably, or maybe more on maybe like 60-40, 60 being they accept it, 40 being they don't.
Yeah, of course you're not taking data points as it happens, but I'm saying how do you figure that out by just the reaction when people are in the room seeing it, and you could tell if they're like prepared for it. I mean, I don't know how you truly prepare for something like that, but by preparing to like understand it, it does mitigate a lot of that stressful reaction, I would think. Yeah,
and I think the way I gauge it too is like, I feel like the word spectrum is like thrown around. It's a spectrum, but it's like there are some very few families are like truly, truly in denial, but I'd say like 1 in 10 fail. And you can just tell because don't say the word hospice. We're not talking about this. They're not dying, true denial. Or if it's not true denial, whatever that means. It's like the person themselves is like, we can't acknowledge that I'm dying. Or the family's like, do not acknowledge that they're dying. And I always try to like work around that a little bit, but sometimes it is what it is. And like people are just going to do what they want to do. And those experiences have been just as informative as the other one, as the opposite of those. Because those are the times I'm like, I never want to be like this. And I have to figure out how to not live my life like this. And it sounds, I'm not trying to judge, just more of like okay, I clearly see this is not working.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to do this.
So when you see it's not working, so obviously there's probably a lot more that happens behind the scenes that you might not see, but what are you noticing that happens perhaps in the negative by people living in denial and not acknowledging that death is right in front of them?
They suffer.
Like you're seeing
physical suffering, emotional suffering, spiritual suffering.
The family or the patient? Or what are we
both?
Okay.
Both. And chaos. So it's like, and even if it's not like running around screaming, it's like you can feel it. And I don't know if I'm just like a feeler or whatever, but like the it all feels chaotic. It all feels like not good. And there's usually a sense of emergency, right? Something will happen and the chaos ensues, sense of emergency. They usually will call 911. Person goes to the hospital, dies there. There probably was chest compressions and intubations and all of the things because I used to work at a hospital. That's what happens. So it's just, and truly everyone has a right to die how they want. So if that's how the person wanted to die, then they have every right to do that. But I think it's not really that. I think it's more like they just refuse to talk about it and acknowledge. And I just want, because I see how hard it is for people. I see how hard it is and how much pain people go through physically and emotionally, that it's like, oh man, if I can help someone not do that, I will. It's
ironic. I mean, it comes up all the time in this podcast, but it's like we're doing that with the notion of protecting ourselves, I think, right? Like we think we're protecting ourselves by doing that to not face it.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not. I just spilled coffee all over me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did that just happen?
Are you wet?
That's what I'm saying. It's like dry, but I totally felt it fall down. Jesus. Okay, go on.
Story of my life. Story of my life.
Very confused. All right.
Maybe it's on the pillow.
Continue. Yeah, anyway. We'll figure it out later. Continue.
Do you need more coffee, though?
No.
I feel so... Jeff. I need this man to drink more coffee. No, I'm just kidding. That's how I was when I was drinking.
I mean, I could get more in a little. We'll figure it out. I'm good. I got some left in there.
When I was drinking, I'd be like, take shots with me. Ah! Everyone would be like, it's 8 a.m. We're on vacation.
Well,
anyway.
Well, kudos to you for, how long has it been now?
8 years.
Hell yeah.
Right?
It's amazing.
8 years, 0 alcohol.
That's
how? Or drugs.
And again, it's, I can't relate because I've never had to go through that, but I've seen glimpses of a lot of friends that are sober. That is a very amazing journey and successful accomplishment that you've done.
Yeah,
seriously,
it's the greatest. It is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. That's what I think.
I mean, I don't doubt it. That's incredible.
Yeah,
it's so awesome.
Okay,
you started.
Anyway.
Before I spilled my coffee, you said you start saying things that you think are you, but not you.
Oh yeah. And that saying is people die how they lived. So people.
Oof, that's hard.
I know. Because I say that because I'll walk into many times we can help people get to the point where they can accept things or at least talk. Not even accept, but just talk about it, right? And sometimes we can't. And those are the times I had the hardest times. I'd be like, why? We need to help these people, right? And then I realized it's like, people die how they lived. Like you can't fix decades and decades and decades of dysfunction in one visit.
Yeah, no. Your deathbed is not going to do that. Right?
Yeah, no. Just because you're dying doesn't mean you're suddenly going to be emotionally intelligent and insightful.
I mean, so if you still have more to the story, I apologize for cutting you off. But have there been times where you think people have truly made just a whole shift being on their deathbed? Because you think there is that notion where people on my deathbed, people just see the light, but this makes more rational sense what you're saying, how you're not just going to work it out.
Yeah.
These epiphany moments happen too?
Every once in a while. So the one I can specifically think of was the gentleman where I had that shared death experience that I always talk about, where I feel like he showed me what it was like to die. He had, generally speaking here, just to just generally speaking, he had like severe anxiety, was a severe hoarder, didn't have any friends, so like a bunch of mental health issues. And then once he got on hospice, it was like, boom, he like let go of all of it. He allowed us, I think we hired people or he did something or I don't know. I can't remember exactly how we did it, but like we took a whole apartment that he had been in for like 50 years, maybe not 50, I don't know, but many decades. And he allowed us in one weekend to clear the whole thing out.
Just like
that. Wasn't even controlling, wasn't like, most people who are hoarders, like they want it fixed, but like they're going to get in your way because it's like this shit matters to them, even though it's like seems like junk or whatever. But I couldn't believe it. He was just like, he just let it all go and was able to talk about it and was able to like not be anxious. It was just crazy. It was like, wow.
What did you pull for? Like, when he did talk about it, was there any uncovering as to like what it was? He's just like, oh, I'm dying now. I don't care. What did he let go of exactly?
He said he felt like this was his final chance to like get help. And now here's all these people willing to help him. And he didn't think he really had anybody to help him. And then we also got in contact with like distant cousins and stuff. So like, and they were willing to come and like help, which they eventually left, not in a bad way, but just because they had to go home. But like the fact that people showed up for him, and then not only this hospice staff, but family that we found that he said he lost contact with. And then they came and helped. He just said that he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe that. And he was kind of sad that it took his death, that it took him getting a terminal diagnosis for him to get there. But that's why this guy was so special. I wish I could like tell you it makes me want to cry. I just like love him so much. I wish I could like tell you his name. I wish I could show you pictures, which I don't even have any. So even if I would, I don't have any because I'm a patient. I can't take pictures. But like, I just wish I could show everybody this man. He was so special and so wonderful. And when I hear something so weird, I kind of know where he lives. This was literally a decade ago. So this is a long ass time ago, but I kind of remember where he lives. I remember the street-ish because there's two different, I'm not going to say the name. I keep looking at the camera like I'm talking to
please
Jeff.
do. It's okay.
Hello, people. I'm like The Office.
You are The Office. You are Michael Scott.
Oh, God, yes. Thank you. No greater compliment.
You're welcome. So you know where he lives.
Yeah, so I know where he lives-ish. Like the streets-ish, the area-ish, the zip code-ish. I have driven around multiple times throughout the day when I'm in that area. And sometimes, I mean, I don't like purposely just make a trip for it. If I'm in the area, I will drive around for a good 45 minutes trying to find this apartment building that I feel like I would recognize if I saw it. I cannot find it anywhere.
What are you trying to trigger there? Just like the nostalgia of just that man?
Yeah.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he was amazing. And I feel like if I see it, I will just be like, but I can't find it. I cannot find it. And I'm like, did it get tore down?
Very possible.
Do I feel like I think I know it, but I don't? I cannot find it. Anyway. No, what a weird thing that I do. But I do. I'll drive around trying to look for it.
No, that's not weird. I get that. You're just looking for certain memories there. Because when you go back to those memories, it's nice. I've been putting myself in certain places, trying to remember certain things. So I'm not driving around like that. But chances are I was probably knocked down knowing LA if it's been 10 years. Yeah. Well, you actually just said it in regards to that man's story. I started getting a little emotional and then you made the point I was thinking about just... Damn, it took till his deathbed for people. It was always there. That's just that part. This man always had the things he didn't know he had were there, and the opportunity for these people to come into his life was always there. And it took this man to be on his deathbed and dying for people to come together to do that. Yeah. And it's like the wasted time, or just, I understand we need catalysts to cause us to do certain things, which is just the way it goes. Yeah. But it's a weird double-edged sword there when people it just takes time. I don't get mad at it or frustrated. It's just like, damn it. Yeah. Like how many opportunities are we, both you and me, sitting on right now, or and people in our lives are we sitting on right now? We know we can do something. That too, right? I feel like all these people that wait to the end of their life, whatever it may be, to get through. It's like we know deep down, like, oh, I should be doing this, but something's like pride, this or that's holding me back from doing whatever it is. And then it takes a certain event for you to like get off your ass and do it. It's like we could have done this whole time. I know. That's why that morning meditation, or even just the thought of being like, what if I died in 6 months?
how would I want to live? And again, you can't just like quit your job and go to Tahiti, but it may be like,
Sometimes.
I should talk to my dad more, or I should talk to my mom more, or I mean, and maybe not, it depends on who you are, but, that and hindsight's always 20/20.
100%.
It's always so easy to see things when it's like done and over with.
Yeah, you see things. It's just part of it too. And but again, yeah, we don't know that. I don't know the dynamic of that patient's family and what it was.
Right.
But like, that's the beautiful part and the messed up thing about death in general, that it can trigger that, which is great. But then it's like, damn.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Well, I don't know what does that mean? Why? Like, what is that? Does it matter? I don't know if it matters.
I know. Tell me about it. This is like the shit I used to say when I was like 5. I'd be like 5 years old being like, Mom, what are we doing here? Like, this is, people always ask like, why am I like this? It's like, I don't know. I feel like I was born contemplating all of existence.
Yeah. I got a message from me too. I got a message from someone who's very into astrology. I didn't read it. She did send me like a little paragraph that was very general, but it was very heavy based on that contemplation and just like thinking about things, which I think is fun, but sometimes I got to be careful because I can just go down a rabbit hole where I don't know. It's like it's good, but it's not good.
Yeah. So I feel like that for me,
let's see if I can pull
and
it
this
up.
is where it would be like annoying to some people who just don't believe in a higher power, I'll say, because to me, like if I contemplate too much, or I put all the pressure on me to get the things or get the stuff done, that's when I can feel almost like the pressure is on and it doesn't feel light and fun. Hence why I feel like I need and believe in like a higher power, not a destiny, but just so that there's like something else divinely guiding me. So then the pressure can be a little off of me.
You need that, so you believe it because you need it, as opposed to like believing it because you believe it.
I mean, I believe it because of experiences that I've had. But I also realize that it's a belief. Like, I would never try to be like, it's a belief and it's real to me and it should be real to you. Like, so that's my clarification. It's like, I believe it because of experiences I've had, but I also still realize that like, this is just a belief. And
you know, what's funny is like, whenever like people do what you just did with like that voice, it's like, how does that become the voice, you know? I just feel like it is the voice for somebody who's like, oh, but how did that? That's what I'm saying. It's a whole other contemplation. Sorry, I just got distracted by your voice there. It works though. I just felt it. Okay. So I want to tie into that belief aspect, because you did mention you have a kind of a chapter, not beliefs, but that what do you call it? The paranormal, other side, metaphysical?
Yeah, we can call it all those
What's
things.
your chapter called?
I was called Deathbed Phenomena.
Phenomena. That was the word I was thinking. And this may be a little redundant in that, but the mission with that chapter in particular, with the deathbed phenomena, is it like what is it strictly just letting, again, very educational? This is what happens, or do you give any explanation to it, or is it just like expect some certain phenomena? This may happen. This is normal if it does X, Y, Z. These are some examples, but does it offer any medical explanation? Because whenever I've seen your videos or posted your videos even that we've discussed, it's always, and I've heard you say sometimes it's not the oxygen, sometimes it's the medication, sometimes it's not the medication. But institutionally, remind me, does it explain, or do you explain? This is a very long fucking question. Is it explain as to why it happens, or just expect this might happen and they leave it at that? That's my question.
It is. So the deathbed phenomena chapter explains the different deathbed phenomena that we see most often. Of course, there's always like little outliers, but like the most often ones we see. And it's not an explanation. It's more of like expect this might happen. Most likely one of these will happen. And what else? One of these might happen, but there is no explanation. So there are like theories. People will always be like, here's the voice again. But like people will always be like, it's DMT being released in the brain, or it's low oxygen, or it's the medications, it's just not true. Yeah. Like maybe, but we don't know. And I'm not here to say that the deathbed phenomena are quote unquote real. I just am here to educate about it likely will happen. Mm. Don't be afraid unless it's hurting your loved one. And it is what it is. And that's it. So we don't know why it happens. There could be theories. it's definitely not low oxygen. I can say that because that's not when it happens. I know what someone who has low oxygen looks like, and I was in the ICU for years, and people do get confused with low oxygen. But that's not what's happening with a hospice death. But like you said, I can't remember what we said with your mom, but like a lot of times people in the ICU do have like ICU psychosis or delirium, or they are on a bunch of like medicine and coming out of anesthesia. And those things can kind of make you say and do weird things.
Yes.
Again, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I've seen as a hospice nurse with deathbed phenomena is much, much different. And I can only say that because I have lived it. 8 years in the ICU, 8 years in hospice. It's different. It's different. It blew my mind as an ICU nurse when I first started seeing it. Now it's kind of like, meh.
That's just grandpa.
Yeah. At first I was like, what the hell's going on here?
But that's the fast. I say after this book becomes New York Times bestseller, you're going to voice acting right after this. The
audio book. Wait, let's talk about this.
Oh yeah, did you read it? Are you reading it yourself?
I'm reading it myself, and I read it myself.
Well, yeah, that's how it works.
And it was the hardest thing. It was the hardest fucking thing I've ever done. It was torture.
I heard that. I've heard that's hard.
Torture.
It's long.
It's long.
Happy you did it in your voice though.
It's long. It's hard. That's what she said.
Oh, bada bing. You said in your own. It's like you
did it.
I mean, that one is like, is that part of your PR notes?
Yeah.
To make sure you get that out of there?
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone's like, they're going to cancel Hospice Nurse Julie for being inappropriate.
And who's this guy, David, who brought on 4 times? So the ship's going down with you, bub.
Yeah.
All right. But what I was trying to say is,
it was very hard. It was super hard. I cried. So there was 2 times in the book that I was not expecting to cry so hard. I could not stop crying. I could not read it. I mean, I did eventually, but I'm really curious to hear how the book sounds because it's like there were 2 sections where I was like, I can't stop crying. Like alligator tears.
What about it? What about those times?
One was about, I believe, my shared death experience, the one where I felt that guy talking to me. And one was about my friend Shauna who died. And like what happened when I when I first got that call. I wrote it like really it was really descriptive. So it like took me back. I could like feel that moment. And I did not think I would cry because it's been a freaking 2 decades. And usually I can talk about it and not, usually you can like, you know what it is, what it's like. It's like you can talk about it and not feel any emotion. But for some reason it was like, and then once the gates opened, it was like, oh my God, I cannot stop crying.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, because I feel like we've talked about that, but in regards to that pulling up emotion when you've been able to talk about it, does that tell you was it just maybe just an emotional time and everything that was going on just kind of came out, or do you feel like there was stuff to still pour out?
I don't know. I mean, I think it really was more like I was in a booth for 4 days. There's a guy, there's a sound guy who was great out there, and like this director on Zoom. They were all great, but I think it just really took me back to that moment. And it had already been like really hard 4 days. Like I'm dyslexic. I have a learning disability. I think I have to, cause like I can barely read. Seriously. It was so, they were so sweet, but it was so wildly uncomfortable. So I was so wildly uncomfortable. And then all of a sudden, like took me back to the moment. I actually love that part of my book. It feels really, really genuine to me. A lot of the book, I love my whole book, but that just felt so personal. So I think it was a whole combination of things. And it felt really good, actually. It was a little embarrassing because I was like sobbing in front of 2 strangers, but it felt good.
That's not embarrassing. I think that adds more pop to the book. It's personal.
Yeah.
It's like, that seems like the one aspect of the book, from what I understand, is it seems more, that was like the personal touch. Obviously, the whole book is personal with patients, but that was like your life outside of work.
Like, a lot of the book I still love, but it is very like instructional. Like people who need instructions, this book will help you. Yeah. It's very like, you do this and then you can do this and then you can do this. And then interwoven are these personal stories. So it's like, it was instructional and then personal story that would make me cry. And then instructional and then personal story. And the grief chapter, which is one of the last chapters, Yeah, it just got to me. It just got to me in a good way, but it was really personal. Yeah.
Well, I love that. And one thing I did want to tap into before we kind of like had a little gap there of, I don't know how we transitioned out of it, but that the one thing I did find fascinating to go back of the deathbed
paranormal deathbed phenomena.
There it is. That phenomenon is the interesting thing is how it's explained. It's not explained. How it's just like it's explained that it's going to happen. This is normal XYZ, but there's no reason for it.
Yeah,
that's the fascinating part. They don't hammer down for sure. Maybe they have ideas. It could be this, could be that, or is it literally just this happens and we don't know why? Like the medical institution doesn't know why. Is that what you're telling me?
Medical institutions do not know why. So they do not know why. It happens worldwide throughout all cultures. It's like a phenomenon. That's why they call it a phenomenon, because they don't know why.
They don't know why.
And to be fair, and I believe in this stuff, so I think it's like I love it. And to be fair, for the skeptics out there, it's like they don't study death, really, which I think is annoying. But like for the most part, it's not very studied. So they're not going to do a bunch of studies on the dying brain, or at least they haven't done tons to like to help explain. So a lot of things are, and like a lot of questions are answered because people will do many, many studies about them. But dying people, it's kind of hard to do studies on them, right? To like disrupt the dying process to do studies, right? It'd be difficult.
Yeah, you think there'd be more people, like if I'm on my deathbed, I would love to like sign up to like have some kind of tracking system, like wait for me to die and study me when I did study that. There was like a guy not that long ago, an article that was getting passed around about he happened to die while they were tracking his brain, was it EKG? What was EKG?
It was the EEG.
EEG.
Yeah.
Had the E in there. It was, and they happened just to catch it. I'm like, surprised there's no, like, I'm an organ donor, and just like, I'll be like a death donor, whatever that means.
I think they do have some studies like that. Just not enough to make things like conclusive.
Yeah, they should.
The guy dying, he was getting an EEG done, and then he had a heart attack. And what it showed was that your brain goes into a life review at the end of its life, the brain life. So that kind of does explain people who kind of come back and go, I went through a whole review of my life. Blah, 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 blah.
And the way they were able to, again, I guess, detect that can't confirm it, I guess, but it activates the part of the brain that is where you store memories. Is that what it was? They saw that like flashing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a start. It's just wild to me.
It's a start, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't really it still doesn't like tell us anything really.
It tells us
that's why we think people can hear when they die. Not when they die, right before they die. They think hearing is the last sense to go because they've done EEGs on dying brains intermittently or whatever, and they can tell that the hearing sensor of the brain, where you sense hearing and have hearing, I don't know. I'm like, no, I'm just making shit up. But
I feel like I just went cross-eyed for a second. Did she say hearing for? I don't know how many times I can. It's like, I went somewhere else. I need an EEG right now because I don't know if it's my lights.
But basically, people can hear you is the whole point. So talk to dying people.
You just did some sorcery. I don't know what happened. I just like went down a vortex.
I have that effect on men. Men from Jersey specifically.
How about it?
Mustache Richie. Should we talk about Mustache Richie?
Yeah, I like Mustache.
I know.
Who's Mustache Richie for the audience?
That's my boyfriend.
I've only seen, seems so, I'm not judging anyone by what you post because it's very minimal. He seems like calming.
Yeah.
He gives me a very good calming, like I would hug him in a time of need.
Yes. He's a very, I'm kind of like the little kid running around.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like the steady one.
Yeah, he seems like he has a good presence around him.
Yeah,
so
steady, calm, kind of quiet.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Besides the fact that this book is going to be awesome?
I don't know. Where's those questions?
Oh, yeah.
Look at those.
I kind of forgot about that. I meant to look at potential questions that. Wait a minute.
Hey, let me look.
Let
me look too, because I feel like there are some good ones I like.
I thought what you were going to send me was, there's some.
It's a text.
I don't want to ask you that.
What?
How did you get in this line of work?
Oh.
We've talked about that before, I think.
Yeah.
This is something that, this actually relates to the book. You mentioned the phrase death anxiety, and people generally feel uncomfortable talking and even thinking about death. We kind of tapped into this a little bit, but what is the main reason? Is this the unknown? Like, why people don't want to talk about it? And why do they go to the denial process that we discussed?
Yeah, well, I think there's tons of reasons.
Protection again, like we said.
Yeah, and we've like taken death out of the picture. So like, I just heard from a Swedish person that follows me who said that in Sweden, people die in their homes. We have people dying in our, like, I think back in the day in the 1800s, people were not going to the hospital for everything because they didn't really exist, right? So they would be dying in their home. And of course, Western medicine, dying in their home, families taking care of them, the wake would be in the home, everything would be, people would be seeing death all the time and caring for people who are dying all the time. And then with Western medicine, which is amazing, right? It's helped us live much longer and have better lives. And it has taken away us seeing death for the most part. So we don't know what it looks like. It's not really around. It's hush hush. It's like scooted out. And I think that creates the fear because there's tons of unknown, and anything unknown can feel scary. And anxiety is anxiety. So it's like some people have anxiety about flights. Some people have anxiety about death. The one thing I didn't really set out to do was help people with like actual death anxiety, but I get emails all the time. I think I've received hundreds, if not thousands, of messages from people saying that I've helped with their death. Not like that I've helped with their death anxiety.
No, but you are.
But I help. But they're my videos.
Yeah, you are.
Have helped people with death anxiety. So there's something to education that can help decrease it.
Yeah, because if we're talking about what we don't know, there's a whole ripple effect. But if you don't know something and you learn about it, it's going to reduce the unknown factor and potentially the fear. But everything you're talking about, fears, not fears, I guess fears, but the anxiety for this, that, or the other, whether it's a flight or death, it is an unknown. And I think when we think about unknowns, you can't control it. And then when you can't control, you immediately go to the negative. Like you don't have anxiety of flying a plane because you're going to land smoothly and land in Hawaii in one piece. So that's not, it's because, this might crash. Yeah. It's always coming from bad potential outcomes. Yeah. Because we're scared of what may happen and may be bad. But to me, again, with your education, that mitigates, at least you start learning more things, that mitigates the unknowingness. But sometimes we just got to be like, okay, what about the other side, the other potential good aspect of this? So I think is that fear and flip aspect, easier said than done, like everything is. But sometimes it's like it's always the negative potential outcome. If you just like automatically think about the potential positive, it's like a little trick that works for me, as simple as it's not. Immediately just flip the script. If it's something bad happened, what's the positive? Yeah. That's kind of it's corny and cliche, but it works if you keep training your brain to do that. Otherwise, your brain's going to continually go to the negative over and over again like we normally do. Yeah. Where was I going with that?
Death anxiety.
No, I know that, but I feel like there was something else with that. You asked, what if death isn't... Oh, that's it. Look at that. Yeah.
What if death isn't the worst possible outcome?
If not death, what is the... Oh, okay, that went right back to negative. If not death, what is the worst possible outcome?
Well, I mean, to me, so death is not the worst possible outcome. People think it is. Suffering to me is far worse. And I think when you prolong life at all costs, you will create suffering. So the fact of the matter is, death is inevitable. Sorry.
Who are you saying sorry to?
The crowd listening to me. And what I have learned from firsthand experience is that people who are willing to talk about their fear, talk about their anger and sadness, joy, curiosity, whatever it may be about what they fear about death, whether it's I'm not afraid to die, but I'm afraid of the suffering, or I'm not afraid to die, but I'm afraid to lose my loved ones or leave my loved ones, or I'm afraid to leave my children. Those are valid, awful, scary feelings. And talking about those things will help that. Yeah. Will help it. And preparing and understanding things will help that. If it's inevitable, we need to prepare. We prepare for everything else in our lives. We prepare for weddings, baby showers, going to school, moving. We prepare. So we need to prepare for this, which is death.
It's literally everything. Yeah. Like if you're into like sports or anything like that, you constantly do things that you can prepare for, like you said, whether it's through knowledge, through talking, this or that. It kind of gets you there before you're there. Yeah. That makes sense. And again, when certain things happen, like dying process, X, Y, Z, it's still going to might smack you across the face. But like my sister, for example, maybe this is a bad analogy, but it just goes into like preparation, understanding before something happens. So she just had surgery. She got cancer removed from her body. And before she went to the surgery, even the nurses and everyone was like, "Are you in the medical field?" And she's like, "No." It's like, "You're like very zen right now." And she's like, "Oh yeah, she was very educated on it. She had to make two decisions that were a very big deal. And she chose one side, but she like did the work. She didn't just listen to the doctor, which I think is very important. I think in the medical field, which I've learned, it's like, yeah, trust the expert, of course, but still do your own research and try to figure out what's best for you. Instead of just listening, you could do this, do that. She studied, saw photos, like really put herself immersed in the situation of what to expect, which when the surgery happened and then the aftermath, she was just like truly zen because she put in her place of expectation and just knowledge before this event happened. And granted, this wasn't a death situation or dying, but it just relates to, again, someone could read your book, study up a little bit, whether you're in it right now or someone you know is in it, or you're just curious about potential stuff. It's like, again, that knowledge does prepare you for that anxiety that may come.
Yeah. Knowledge decreases fear, for sure. Hence the book, Nothing to Fear.
But to play off that, sometimes more knowledge makes me more fearful. Not in this case. Well, I mean,
Jeff, cut that out. Okay, we had a perfect finish. He's over here fucking things up. I mean, that was he's like, yeah, but not in this case. Not in your case. This is fine.
I was just talking about, I was thinking more U2, because U2 says the more you see, the less you know. Maybe I was thinking more conspiratorial as opposed to like death. So let's just leave it on that note.
Yeah, I mean.
You know. Oh, God. Okay, just in case we edit that part out, you have to listen to our Patreon for the real raw footage.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's
Do you have a Patreon for real raw footage? Cunt, bitch, ass. That's all I want to do is go on a podcast and just like not talk about this shit and just talk about other fun stuff.
I'm not even lying to you. I've been thinking about doing a spinoff just because like I wanted my buddy to come on, just like, let's just do something that has nothing to do with the podcast, just to like loosen it up and have a random thing because like raw, like, you know, it's exactly what you just said. But guys, I need a real outro. Okay, maybe before you get, we'll figure that part out. But Julie, thank you again for being here. 4th time. I'm sure there'll be more. Tell people how to find you and everything else. I'll put the show in the links as usual. Everyone knows how to find you, but for anyone that doesn't know Julie, give us a little outro.
Yes. So my name is Julie McFadden. You can find me on all social media platforms at Hospice.
You can probably look at the camera. Okay. Yeah, so say it again. Yeah.
My name is Julie McFadden. You can find me on all social media platforms at Hospice Nurse Julie, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And you can get my book basically anywhere. You just Google Nothing to Fear, Julie McFadden, it'll pop up. You could also go to my website, hospicenursejulie.com, and it will give you all the different links, including international links, because we are worldwide, baby.
Cue Pitbull. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here. See you later.
Yes!
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.